Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Flower Power Live. Today is December 13th, and we're coming down to the end of the year here. And tonight I'm going to be sharing with you the last of the plants or the herbs that are common culinary plants that a lot of people don't realize that they have medicinal benefits. So, our plant of today, or a tree of today, I should say, because it comes from the bark of a tree, is none other than cinnamon. So, hello, everyone. I'm Allison from the Well Cultivated Life, and thank you so much for joining me here on this super fun flower power journey. I love sharing this information with you, and I hope that you love it too. So, cinnamon really does not need an introduction now, does it? And it's probably the most well known and most well loved, especially this time of year, very popular spice that everybody pretty much has in their kitchen. Now, cinnamon is from the sort of Spice Island area of the world, Indonesia, and specifically the main plant that we call cinnamon is Cinnamomum xylanicum. Why did they make these so hard to say? Okay, is from native to Sri Lanka, which is a large island off of the tip of India. And this particular plant has the esteemed status of being the true cinnamon, even though there are hundreds of other varieties of cinnamon around the world. And in the past, Sri Lanka was also called Ceylon. You've probably heard of Ceylon tea. And so Ceylon cinnamon is another name for this supposed true cinnamon. Now, the botanical name, this cinnamomum, comes from the word, it's a Hebrew and Arabic term, amomum, which means fragrant spice plant. So that's appropriate, right? And now, in some of the history I searched, it said that the ancient Egyptians used cinnamon in their embalming process. And I'm guessing that if really this true cinnamon only comes from Sri Lanka, that they probably were using a different variety of cinnamon, because we know that the Egyptian culture is definitely ancient, and therefore the likelihood of the spice trade making it into Egypt is very low. So they must have used a different variety of cinnamon, but I do not have the facts on that at this time. Now, these cinnamon sticks are not actually sticks. There are the curled up bark from the cinnamon tree. And what happens is, in order to produce cinnamon, they take the cinnamon tree, it gets chopped down, and it gets created into this sort of it gets cut back regularly so that it puts out these side shoots. And then those side shoots are harvested. It's allowed to dry. They have to ferment it. They ferment it, harvest, dry, ferment. And then this outer layer is peeled off. And then it's the inner bark that makes the actual cinnamon spice that we use. And then as that inner bark is drying, it just naturally curls up. If you've ever made a tea or like a mulling spice or something like that, you'll come back an hour or two later after you've been simmering your cinnamon, and you'll find like a big flat piece lying in your pot, because it will uncurl once it starts to simmer. Now, most of the ground cinnamon and even the cinnamon sticks that you buy is not this true cinnamon. It's another type of cinnamon called Cinnamomum cassia, also known as just cassia. And this is, also a type of cinnamon, and it's just commercially, it's just way easier to produce and process and import and all those things. And so even though it does not have the same flavor or beneficial properties as the true cinnamon, it does still have a lot of those properties. And so a lot of people just aren't that picky. And unless you really were a cinnamon expert, it's highly unlikely that you would be able to tell the difference between the two, unless you had, consciously developed your sort of flavor buds to tell the difference. So most herbalists will just use them interchangeably. Now, cinnamon is does have a lot of great nutrients, magnesium, it's got some fiber, calcium, iron, chromium, and manganese. Now, like we were talking about last week, the with nutmeg, even though nutmeg has a lot of great nutrients as well, you're not going to be able to eat enough nutmeg to like replace your vitamin pill. Same thing here, probably with cinnamon. So don't go try to get carried away and think that all my nutritional needs are going to be met by eating spoonfuls of cinnamon every day. Just not going to happen. Now, but it's delicious. So why not get a little bit of an extra benefit by sprinkling it on your food? Now, cinnamon has warming and stimulating properties. And so it has been used in teas just to aid with digestion. And it also has a very strong antiseptic properties as well. And one of the things it has an affinity for is actually for the gums and the mouth. And so you'll see cinnamon in a mouthwash. And for years, I used Tom's of Maine cinnamon flavored toothpaste. I loved it. And then they stopped making it. So I may have to figure out how to make my own cinnamon toothpaste again. Now that I am more aware of how important it is. It kills off a lot of the non-beneficial bacteria that are in your mouth and helps just really keep your mouth clean. And it has an affinity towards the gums. And so it really helps to like tone the gums as well. Now, it's this swarming and stimulating properties of cinnamon means that it is helpful in circulation. And also it has the ability to slightly lower your blood pressure by just thinning the blood a little bit. So again, if you're on any kind of medication, you've got to be careful with the herbs that you take, and you don't be taking giant spoonfuls, because if you're already on a blood thinner, you don't want to be taking a large quantity of cinnamon. Just something to think about. If you have an occasional, sprinkle of cinnamon on your coffee, it's probably going to be okay. But this warming and stimulating can be used by making the tea, and you can also use the cinnamon essential oil. One of the things it works really well with is for like cramping, just to warm, especially like menstrual cramps or even digestive cramps. And so what you can do is you can just take a carrier oil. You would not want to put cinnamon essential oil directly on your skin. You're going to drop 1, maybe 2 drops of cinnamon essential oil into the oil and just into your carrier, rub it. And just like if you have a bellyache, just rub it right on your stomach, right on the skin, and that will help to warm and relax that area. Now, one of the coolest things I think about cinnamon is that it helps to maintain blood sugar levels. And so part of this is because it just kind of helps with our metabolism overall. But there were some clinical studies done that showed that cinnamon was able to both decrease the glucose in your blood as well as cholesterol. And these were done on people with type 2 diabetes. So it could be beneficial in larger quantities if you already have this condition. And when I discovered this years ago, I thought, isn't just nature just awesome, right? Because what tastes better together than cinnamon and sugar? Okay, so here I want my little sugar fix. Cinnamon helps to keep my blood sugar balanced. So make sure if you want to have something sweet, put some cinnamon on top, and it'll taste delicious as well. Keep the blood sugar spike down and enjoy your dessert after all. So the flower essence for cinnamon, I didn't find a whole lot on the flower essence, but there was one from pegasusproducts.com. And this site says that the flower essence attunes you to your inner expressive energy so that you can have kind of clarification behind the expression of these energies. And so it's basically for people who might be sort of introverted, or even for creative people who have a lot of creative energy, and they kind of need help expressing it in a joyful way, in sort of a meaningful way. So it can be used just to kind of like help get that out to the world if you do have some inner creativity that you want to express. Check out the cinnamon flower essence, and that is the cinnamon xylonicum, the true cinnamon. Okay. Now, our oracle card for this week is from the Herbcrafter's Tarot. Get that lined up there properly for you. And this is the Seven of Fire, and the sevens in this deck all represent sort of like ancient, wise old trees, and they represent sort of the deeper journey into learning to work with herbs. And if you think about it, like if you're going to plant a tree, you're not planting a tree for yourself. You're planting a tree for your descendants or for the children or for future generations. And so cinnamon is considered, because it is a tree, is considered one of these kind of wisdom-based plants. Now, the words on the card say, answer the call from the ancients, seek vision from ancestors, take a stand for your whole authentic self. And the image on here shows, I don't know if you can tell or not, but on this side here, it has an image of the goddess Ixchel, which I am sure I pronounced that completely wrong, Ixchel. There's a sunstone on the table, and there's a rosary draped across this dusty book of healing arts. Cinnamon is cooking on the wood stove in the back, and you can still see the cinnamon sticks and preparation, getting ready to drink some cinnamon tea. And so what this card is really talking about is embracing your ancestral traditions and your cultural heritage, and kind of ask, well, what foods, what medicines, what kinds of were brought forth to me, and what are still important to me. And this is appropriate for this time of year because we're getting together with family and we're thinking about our traditions of things we like to do this time of year. And but the thing is that some people, may not know their family history. And of course, you can always go into sort of like either your racial history or your history from where your ancestors lived, if you do know that. And, like my family is Scandinavian, so I can easily, even if I haven't lived there for, it's been centuries, but I could still explore some of the Scandinavian traditions. And other people, like, they don't really want to know their family history, for example. And this is the thing that I think is so awesome about plants. The plants really do not care what your family history is, okay? They are available for everyone. And so what we can do is we can either bring in the ancestral things that we like, or we can create our own new lineage using the plants that are our own herbal allies. Because I can guarantee you that there are no herbalists that just use the plants from one specific region, or or one tradition. I am not going to just use Scandinavian herbs in my practice, and I'm going to find other plants that resonate with me. And so like this card, these cards have a lot of like desert Southwest and Mexico. Some of the cards have some of the plants from that area, but cinnamon's not from Mexico. And so, they were talking about how cinnamon circled the entire globe and got sort of incorporated into traditions everywhere because it was effective and delicious, and it was a wonderful plant. So, if cinnamon is an herbal ally for you, then by all means, even if you're not from Sri Lanka, you can absolutely incorporate this in as one of the important plants in your traditions. So, cinnamon, good stuff. That's our message from cinnamon tonight. And I wanted to just remind you that this is the last show before the winter solstice. This is the last show of my culinary herbs series that I've done. And so next week, I'm excited to be sharing with you the year ahead spread. I'm going to do a whole new spread for 2022 using the Herbcrafter Tarot. And I will introduce to you the winter solstice card as well as the new card for 2022. Now, let us not forget the wonderful message and guidance that we had from Dandelion this past year. Dandelion that taught us be playful, be adventurous, enjoy yourself, frolic outside in the grass, allow yourself to enjoy. And that was such a wonderful way to look at things after 2020, which everyone had, well, I don't need to tell you, right? So we're going to say thank you and goodbye to Dandelion. And we'll see what our new card for 2022 is going to be for guiding us forward. So that is our show for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. If you do not follow me on Instagram, feel free. It's Cultivate My Life. And I am not super prolific on Instagram, but I do like to try to just show kind of what am I up to? What am I making in the kitchen? What am I harvesting outside? What am I up to herbally? And so thank you everyone for joining me. And I will see you all next week for the winter solstice show. Take care, everyone.